Hello everyone. Here I will talk about the touch command and the make command. They are somewhat related. So the touch command has two functions. One is to create a new file. The other is change the timestamp. Suppose you don't want to create a new file and only want to change the timestamp, you can use the -c option. So by default, if you just touch a file, it will change the timestamp to now. You can also change it to the timestamp of a different file or a specific time. So why would you want to do this? One reason is you may want to use, you want to change the timestamp to trick the make file. We will talk about what the make file is later. So let me show you some examples. So, so if you want to make a new file, you can say touch that file. I actually don't really use this way to create a new file because there's a much easier way, which is using the file redirection. It can also create an empty file and it's much less type. Okay, so suppose we just touch it. Then you can see it change the timestamp. If we want to change it to the timestamp of a different file, you do -r. Now it changes back. And if you want to change it to a specific time, let's say some arbitrary time yesterday, then you can see it changed to the older time. Okay, that's the touch command. So the make command is a very powerful tool. It's actually a long story. It can be a very long story because it's very useful. So at high level, it can manage dependencies and also do text macro expansions. Usually people use it to build a program to do compilations and link different components together. There's a general pattern. So you will have some input files, which we call prerequisites, and you may have output files, which we call targets. And there's one recipe to turn the input to the output. For example, you have source code and header files. You compile them in order to get the object file or executable files. So you will expect so you will put, say, this content in a make file, and then you can say make foo.o. It will just run this command, run the recipe for you. So you can imagine typically the output file will have a later timestamp than the input files. So if you do the make twice, the second time it actually don't do anything because it checks the timestamp and it knows there's nothing to be done. However, if you change the source code and then you do make foo.o again, the make file will check the timestamp again and sees the output is out of date. Then it will run the compilation for you. So you can see this time concept is very useful. It will, because in reality, if you update something, you only want to update the related stuff, the other files that depends on it. So when your project gets bigger, this is very useful. Not only for compilation, but other purposes. Whenever you have a dependency graph, it will be useful. So for example, I can imagine if you have data processing pipelines, it will be very useful. I actually once wrote a blog post about data processing with a makefile. So you might start with some initial data set, do some pre-processing, and become something else, become a clean data set, and then you might separate them into different subsets and do further processing, and maybe run different models, and then maybe merge the models, etc. So for a real project, it can be something pretty complicated, and you don't really want to remember all the intermediate commands to connect each step. And whenever something changes, you don't want to manually run the commands that need to be rerun. Okay, so this is just an overview of how, like a high-level explanation of what a makefile does. I'm not going to give you detailed instructions. I will point you to some references which will help you learn makefile. One of them is the book by Aurelie. So this famous book series with these animals. This is a pretty old book, 2004, but makefile is actually a very old program. Maybe it's made in the 70s, so there's not too much changing. So this book is still very relevant, and there are a lot of neat tricks about how to use it. It's pretty advanced book. There's another reference that's quite useful. This one is more basic. This is from the software carpentry. There's a tutorial about automation and make, and they have some simple examples, maybe some Python data processing example. And if you're a beginner, this one will be more relevant to you. Okay, that's what I want to talk about today. Thanks for watching. Bye.